guess it's time to get underway. Kia ora koutou, nau mai, haere mai. Welcome everyone. As you can see, we've gone to Dunedin Plan B. The Dunedin Plan B. I knew we had to do this because the forecast was far from impressive, but also the seasoned southerners amongst us were finding it a little bit perishing out there this morning as we had our blessing and then moved on to other duties. So here we are, and you're in our magnificent cricket centre, which does resemble a marquee at a wedding or something similar if you engage your imagination somewhat. And good to have our boys here. We've got a selection from a range of premier sports teams as well as our prefects who will proudly perform our haka when we're finished just at the end as we begin to conclude things. So just for my part, to lead us in here, it's our privilege and honour to officially open the Otago Community Trust Kings Hockey Turf on this most auspicious occasion. We're opening a fantastic addition to the sport and recreation of the school, the city, but also the nation. So for us, it's a huge, big deal. For quite a long time, this turf existed as a very well, carefully conceived and worthy aspiration. Then it became eventually a large hole in the ground, which fueled speculation that a large swimming pool was on the way for Kings. Now, most recently, it's finished as a stunning new modern facility for the young and not so young to enjoy hockey participation and performance, and also for wider multi-sport use in Kings sport and PE. For Kings, the turf's a welcome extension to the breadth of high-quality education we offer our students and community. An excellent education is, in part, a healthy and competitive one, in which teams grow and individuals thrive. Personal excellence is found at the end of a hockey stick, as well as the end of a pen, a brush, a workshop tool, or a keyboard. This turf's also the convergence of generous goodwill and expertise from a range of people who have made it all happen. Special thank you on that note goes to all our key funders who joined the school, Otago Hockey and the DCC in funding this superb project, each represented today by Barbara Bridger and Barb Long from the Otago Community Trust, Kimberly Sweeney attending on behalf of the Lottery Community Facilities Fund, and John Anderson for the Alexander Macmillan Trust. Other significant contributors to the project unfortunately unable to attend are the New Zealand Community Trust, the Lion Foundation, the Bendigo Trust, and the AAW Jones Charitable Trust. I'd also like to publicly recognise the essential work of the King's Board of Trustees and the Project Control Group of Mark Todd, John Brimble, Mike Kane, Carl Tom, Andy McLean, David Booth, Taryn Goodmans, and Richard Wingham. David, Taryn and Richard also on the King's Board of Trustees. This project has truly been a unification of the school, Otago Hockey, Sport Otago and the City Council, and proudly done so. So thank you to everyone who could also join us today as a member of the Otago Hockey Board and its wider hockey community, be it as a player, a coach, an administrator, from the past or the present, or here as a Member of Parliament, Ministry of Education representative, part of the District Council, the Dunedin City Council, management or that of Tiger Turf, local media reporters, members of the King's PTSA, old boy, or if you're here as a student at King's, or another friend of our school. Great to have you with us. Earlier this morning we blessed the turf with karakia and appropriate observance of tikanga out on the turf itself. So thank you to Mātu Penny for leading this important cultural dimension of our opening. Now looking at what's on the way for our program today, I'll soon hand over to Mayor Aaron Hawkins to speak. He will be followed by John Daniel, Otago Hockey Association past chair and Hockey New Zealand board member, Patrick Ward, Deputy Head Boy and First 11 hockey player, and then finally our guest of honour, the Honourable Grant Robertson. Thank you for being here today, Grant. It's great to have you back, and it's been a lot of fun actually this morning having you with our Year 13s, visiting classes and being back in the old school. I hope you see it as a good opportunity to enjoy some time here as still being, of course, one of New Zealand's finest secondary schools. Here today is a nice diversion from matters of state, perhaps. I'm reliably informed that you were captain of the King's debating team while here, including historic victories over another school up on the hill. that soon entered King's folklore. We hope your powers of persuasion, as first honed at King's, continue to serve you well going forward, and that your affinity for King's remains strong and undiminished. In being here today, you're possibly also wearing a few hats. As Minister for Sport and Recreation, checking that the turf is fit for purpose to play the game well, up to international sporting standards. As Minister of Finance, checking it's been financed appropriately. Minister of Infrastructure, checking it's been built suitably. And as Deputy Prime Minister, checking it's sound politically. Most importantly, here is a loyal King's old boy to give your blessing to this enhancement to King's High School. The 4 speeches will be followed by ceremonial shots at goal to officially open the turf. And these will be taken by the Deputy Prime Minister, Patrick Ward, and then our first 11 coach and long-serving contributor to New Zealand hockey, Dave Ross. And then the shots will be completed by Jenny McDonald, described as hockey royalty by those in the know, having played 192 matches for New Zealand, inducted to the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame as well. And we'll conclude with a school haka. Mayor Hawkins, please come forward.
Kia ora koutou, ka mi nui ki koutou. Kia ora, I'd like to acknowledge the people of Waitaha, Katimamoi and Kaitahu as mana whenua of this place. Welcome to the Minister for Sport and Recreation. Great to have you here opening this facility. There is nothing the Minister for Sport and Recreation loves more than opening a facility that has not required the support of the Minister of Finance. So great to have you, acknowledging your fellow members of Parliament, Rachel Brooking and Ingrid Leary, who are here, the great and the good of the local hockey fraternity. John Daniel, great to have you here, a man who I have nothing but good things to say about because he was my marriage celebrant and I'm too scared he's going to jinx it. And of the wider school community. This is a remarkable occasion to be a part of. The city is proud to have been a supporter of this project. And to build this facility in this part of the city, but it will serve obviously the wider Dunedin community and adds to the attractiveness, if you like, of Dunedin as a destination for top tier hockey and of significant contests. The Rankin Cup among them, obviously, which now currently has pride of place here in South Dunedin, and it is. We go to excellence naturally at the moment because we're in the middle of a fairly significant international sporting tournament and a remarkable first day for both our men's and women's teams over the last 24 hours. But this is about more than that. This is a community asset that we have invested in as a way of supporting players of all levels and of all interests. And I was reflecting on that recently when I was down at Logan Park on the football turf, which we also contributed to the provision of. And while it's been a great asset for our top football players, it's remarkable being down there in the weekends and seeing athletes and families of all ages making use of that facility and encouraging people to get out and to get out and about. And all weather surfaces like this are reasonably important in this part of the world, and thankfully not quite to the same degree today as some of us had been expecting. But this is huge, and so I just want to thank on behalf of the city all of the other people who have made this happen. And Mr. McIver has mentioned that. He's also said to me that everyone's free to stop at 2:20 this afternoon to watch the final of the women's 400 metre freestyle. So enjoy that on the Rector. But this is something that this is a significant occasion for the city and for the South Dunedin community, and it's a great pleasure to be a part of its formal opening this afternoon. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Nick, for hosting this day, for hosting this turf, and for hosting hockey. It's an absolute privilege to be here. Kia ora and tēnā koe, Deputy Prime Minister Grant, tēnā koe, Mayor Aaron, nā mihi nui, me tēnā koutou e rau rangatirama. If it takes a village to raise a child, it's taken a team, a community to bring this project to fruition. I want to acknowledge a number of people, and I want to make sure that we do include everyone. The early supporters were Rachel Minton-Smith from Otago Hockey as general manager, and also Dan Reddix, who's also here. And if memory serves me correctly, Dan and Rachel, you walked the streets, that doesn't sound too good, but you wandered around here and met with every neighbor around here, knocked on doors to ensure that we got consent. And that's the kind of personal commitment that has enabled this partnership to bring it to this point and this day. I want to thank Andrew Booth, who was the chair of the board at the time and a prime instigator behind this idea and this vision, and Jude Soper and Dave Ross, of course, who of course was delighted that Kings would become host to this turf and to hockey. The DCC and the ORC, I do want to thank the Mayor and also Chris Staines, who was involved in some of those discussions, to Kate, who was on the council at the time, and Sandy and Robert. I think you're both here somewhere for the part you've played in that process. I want to also thank the Ministry of Education for their involvement in this, and we'd be delighted, Deputy Prime Minister, if you wouldn't mind passing that on to Minister Chris Hipkins, that we were very grateful indeed to get to this stage in this process, and I'm sure we can continue to do that around the country with hockey. Ingrid and David, it's a privilege to see you again and to be here together to celebrate this day. I want to also, along with Nick, thank our sponsors and funders, OCT in particular, but all those others who are involved. And of course, Nick, you and your team, including Rachel, for organising this day. My special thanks to David Booth and the team for managing the process, and Hockey New Zealand, Anthony, our new chief executive, is here, and Ken, and Ian, who was earlier part of this process. Otago Hockey, of course, I do want to thank Andy McLean for all the work that you put into this. I think without your involvement, we would have been at a loss. To Carl Tom and to Warren and others and the staff and Kate and the board for the contributions that you have made, and our life members who are represented here by hockey royalty in Jenny McDonald. This moment, folks, is symbolic and significant, not only for the completion of the project, but also for the celebration of the community that it has generated. Partnerships like this are built on relationships of integrity, of transparency and trust. They don't happen by themselves. I want to give an example of that. When my son passed away, Dan's sensitivity and his support, at every meeting we were at, he would make sure he came around the table, he would grab me, give me a hug, and look into my eyes and ask me how I was. Not just a "how are you," but he would look at me and wait for the answer. Dan, thank you. I'm incredibly privileged to have been part of that, and to know that it continues in the relationship we're now working sustainably with Nick is an absolute privilege for hockey, and certainly for me personally. That's significant. Hockey has been and is working hard to embed a culture of diversity, opportunity, availability, accessibility, affordability. See how quickly that tripped off my tongue? And choosing South Dunedin was putting money where our mouths are. And that's significant. Already, girls and boys and women and men of all ages are utilising this facility, and that's significant for hockey, for Kings, and for South Dunedin. It has increased our capacity and opportunities for participation and excellence, a hope-filled future, I believe, including possibilities of hosting national tournaments that can have a positive economic impact for Dunedin and increase our social capital. That was aimed at the Mayor. And that's significant. The people of Haiti have a concept called konbit, a gathering with a shared goal where members of a community come together to accomplish something that benefits the entire community or one individual. We've seen that on the telly and in media over the last few days, where the Haitian president has been assassinated and the whole community went and gathered around their family and others who have been affected. Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Mayor, friends and honoured guests, this moment, this facility are symbolic because it proves when disparate teams get together with a common goal, good things are achievable. It is our hope as a hockey community that through such konbits, further positive outcomes can result for South Dunedin, this great little city of ours, and perhaps for others of the team of 5 million. As they say, it's better to light one small candle than to curse the darkness. Ngā mihi aroha, ngā mihi hari, ki o koutou katoa. Ka heke.
Hello everyone, my name is Patrick and it is a pleasure to read the following remarks from Darren Smith, Black Six men's coach since 2017 and currently at the Tokyo Olympics. Prior to the Black Six men, Darren was head coach of Ireland women's team from 2012 to 2015, a Black Six player from 1995 to 2006 and a student here at King's High School from 1987 to 1991. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share in the opening of the King's High School hockey turf. The field that this turf graces is on the grounds of a proud hockey school who have won Rankin Cup, produced so many wonderful players and has a rich history in hockey. What this turf will bring is a facility not only Dunedin will share in, but also cement hockey into the fabric of this fine school. It will already been mentioned, but the location of this turf is similar to the location of the old King's #1 grass field, a place where I played many inter-school fixtures as we fought through the mud lumps against Shirley, Waiteki and Southland boys, as many on the school watched on. To look at this field now is an absolute picture, and those days, while still fond, seem a long, long time ago. This facility will support King's vision to build men for life, not just because there's a wonderful turf to play on, but it will continue the legacy of my coach, Mr. Dave Ross. He is a man who supported my growth towards having the standards, perseverance and drive that was required to reach the top of my potential. The opportunities he gave me as a King's man, both in the years at secondary school and after I left, were significant. The training, coaching, feedback, empathy and advice enabled me to have a career in elite sport that I would not have imagined as a boy. 5 years at King's High School, where a potential elite player was mixed in with Mr. Ross, who was a superb developer of talent, and now this same coach has an outstanding facility to continue to grow King's players and build them for life. I do often wonder what would have happened to my hockey career without my time with this outstanding man. I would have loved to be here with you to see the turf open. Currently, I am masked up, washing my hands and in the trenches with the Black Six in Tokyo. We're trying desperately to get the points that we need to be in the medal rounds. The cool thing is that the pitch we are playing on here in Tokyo and the pitch at King's are both new, beautiful, and the ball rolls like a billiard table. Congratulations to everyone involved. Look at what you have done. Be proud, celebrate it, because it's a truly wonderful facility. Darren Smith, Black Six men's coach. Thank you.
O tihei Māori ora, he mihi ana ngā mana whenua ki tēnei rohi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, rau rangatirama, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings everybody, thank you Mr McIver, Nick, for your welcome here today. I acknowledge the Mayor of Dunedin, Aaron Hawkins, who I saw dancing in Auckland on Saturday night, so we can hold that against each other, Aaron, for future reference. Can I also acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues Ingrid Leary and Rachel Brooking, who are here today. It's great to see both of you with us here today, and we have apologies from Dr David Clark, the MP for Dunedin as well. There are many other distinguished guests around, and I'll come to one or two of them, but I want to acknowledge former rectors of the school. I know Dan Reddix is here as well, but also the rector from my time at school here, Ian Simpson. I especially acknowledge that because Ian's just told me he's writing a book and I'm in it. So I want to put on record that he's the finest principal that a school has ever seen. Actually, I also mean that as well. Ian was the rector for my entire time at King's, and to pick up the story that John just told before, many of you will know that I had some difficult family times around the end of my time at school, and Ian, you were remarkable in your support for my family during that period of time. And I think it says the same thing, John, that you were saying, that the community that is King's High School and that is South Dunedin is a strong one. It's not just about what happens in the classroom or even what happens on the hockey turf. It's about the way we treat one another and the support we give each other. And so, Ian, I've never, ever forgotten what you did for my family. There are many others around who I remember from my time here. I want it to be noted before we get to the goal shots, which I note the goals got quite small in the time I've been standing here, that hockey is a right-hander's game. And not only are my politics to the left, but I am one of the most left-handed people in the world. So let's just note that right now at the start. But King's High School Hockey has had some very, very loyal servants, and that was a really beautiful letter that Patrick just read from Darren Smith. And I was actually messaging Darren last night to wish him luck for the game. He came back after the game and said, "Too easy." And I used a word that I will not use now in public, and he then went and said, "Yeah, it took years off my life actually." But they did really well last night. But I think, Dave, I really hope those words meant a lot to you. The influence you've had on generations of hockey players through King's High School, and not just here, obviously in the Otago and wider New Zealand region. So I want to acknowledge your role as well, Dave. Can we just give Dave a round of applause for his work? I should probably mention at this point that for a very brief period of a matter of weeks, I was the manager of the King's High School First 11 hockey team when 1989, when I was the head boy. It was a management career driven entirely by my desire to go to Timaru, which at the time seemed exotic, and spend some time with my friends. And it was an extremely good tournament, although Dave's just alerted me to where it sat in the hierarchy of tournaments, but it was one, and the coach on that occasion was Blair Kennedy, who's also here today, who I continue to try to say nice things about, indeed, because he knows too much about that trip to Timaru. But suffice to say, the team won, and I have no idea how the tyres on the Southern Boys van got let down. None at all. Wouldn't have a clue. It wasn't Blair, by the way. When I think about when I was invited to come down and do this event by Mr. McIver and the school, I was absolutely delighted to do so. This community is the one that I grew up in. It's the one that shaped me as a person, but I also see it as in many ways a microcosm of all that is good about the country that we live in today. South Dunedin is rich in almost every way. It's a community that has always held its people together. And Brendan McCullum, when he scored his triple century, the first one by a New Zealand Test batsman, and he was asked whether he cried, and he went, "Nah, mate, I'm from South Dunedin." She told me later that he nearly did cry, but he thought he should say that. South Dunedin's a place that's grown some amazing people, but it's the centre of a concept that I was just talking to the Year 9 economics class about. I'm sure they were riveted by it. You can pretend to be interested. And that's about the concept of social capital. That the way we produce our budgets nowadays is we look at what are called the four capitals, at financial capital, natural capital, human and social, or to put it in more layperson's terms, the money, the people, the environment and our communities. And social capital is about our communities. It's about the trust we have in each other and the connections that we have as communities. And our stocks of social capital, in my opinion, are one of the reasons New Zealand's come through COVID so well, is that we have connected as communities. We rely on one another. We've got trust in our institutions and even in the government. And that is something that's done New Zealand proud. I think South Dunedin is the microcosm of that, the connections that we have. They are historical, they're legacy, but they're also modern and current. And the boys who are here today represent what is Dunedin, what is South Dunedin, what is the wider community here. They are, Mr. McIver, boys you can be proud of, even just from my morning here today. And they represent that sense of what it means to be from this community, to know one another and to know your history and to know who your friends are and where your future lies. And so South Dunedin has challenges ahead of it, not least brought on by climate change. It has economic challenges that it has dealt with over many, many years. But it is a resilient community. It is one where people are proud to be from and proud to live in. But it's not always where a world-class facility might have been put. And so on that note, I want to thank all of those who have funded and supported this. The Dunedin City Council, I want to acknowledge the Otago Community Trust and Barb and others who are here from that today for putting their faith in it. I want to acknowledge the Lotteries Commission and all of the other funders. It was interesting to hear about the Alexander Macmillan Trust. When I was the secretary of the King's High School School Council in 1988, we raised money through a mufti day for the artificial turf down on Harbour Terrace, the first in Dunedin at the time. And I don't think at the time we could have conceived in a million years that there would be a turf like this here in South Dunedin. So it's a tribute to all of those funders, to the school, the parents and the staff and the boys of the school, that a turf like this is here in this community. And I'm absolutely confident that it will grow more Darren Smiths for future generations. But also it'll be an opportunity for the wider community to be able to use this facility. And John, for Otago Hockey, I know this will be a big moment. John's also a friend of my mother, so I've got to be nice to John as well. And John, I think, you know, for me, for a sport like hockey to have this, I know it can be used for other purposes as well, but for a sport like hockey in Dunedin to have this, I think it's an amazing facility as well. So my job is to officially open the turf, and where we outside there's a plaque with my name on it, and it says there was a question asked about what words I would want on the plaque, and should it have all my portfolios, which would require 2 plaques, and so decided not to do that. But when I read it, it said I was the Minister of Sport and Recreation, but it said that I was a proud King's High School old boy, and I very, very much am. And I very, very much am today. I congratulate everybody who has been a part of this project, and I wish everybody who uses this turf in the future all the very, very best. So on that note, it is my great pleasure to declare the Otago Community Trust King's Hockey Turf officially open.
Thank you for that, Grant. Right, now the honour is yours to take that first shot. Now you can get to choose how close you wish to stand. Well done, boys. Our haka delivered with great heart, and also great shots from Grant, Patrick, Dave and Jenny, all effective in their own way. Thank you again to everyone for being here, especially those of you who have spoken and sharing in this auspicious occasion, as I said earlier. Occasions like this are definitely few and far between, and always a source of pride and an immense sense of progress. And we can all be confident that the Otago Community Trust King's Hockey Turf will make its mark and be valued highly for years to come. Before we finish, I'd like to invite Anthony Crummy, CEO of New Zealand Hockey, up because he wishes to make a special hockey presentation to Dave Ross. Anthony.
Thanks, Nick. Kia ora, everyone. Minister, Ingrid and... sorry, I've gone blank. Ingrid and Rachel, nice to see you here. To everyone, such an amazing opportunity to be here for me. Before I talk about the award for Dave, I'm new to hockey. I've only been with Hockey New Zealand for five months. But I've been blown away by the hockey whānau and the community that is hockey, and on display today, just to watch local solutions and local collaborations come together to provide such great facilities for our people. We really are so appreciative, and our sport couldn't exist without it. So just to everyone who's been involved and who's helped bring it to life, to fund it from council right through to the funders, we're just so appreciative. So kia ora for that. Now to the award that I'm lucky enough to be able to present. Dave wasn't able to attend our awards evening this year, so I just wanted to acknowledge this award for Dave. What I might do is I'll read the comment from Otago Hockey, who made the nomination. The Otago Hockey community owes a huge debt of gratitude to Dave Ross and his wife Glenys for the time and effort, and most of all the amazing results he's achieved over his 30 plus years in the sport as a coach. He's played Premier Hockey well into his 50s, represented his country in both indoor and outdoor hockey, coaching at NHL level and New Zealand junior levels, and was a driving force behind indoor hockey in the region. The list of players he has coached on the international status grows by the day. As I said, I am new to hockey, and what I can say, obviously, in your first few months, you spend a lot of time, both before starting and post, talking about hockey with our stakeholders. And when we talk about coaching, I can tell you quite a few people have said, well, if you want to fix coaching, you just need another 5 or 6 Dave Rosses around the country, and your sport will be in great heart. And I think you hear what Darren Smith just had to say, well read by Patrick, and then you also look at our coaching staff that are on deck now, making our players achieve like we just saw in the last 24 hours. And then you look at the players that are representing our country with such pride. It's not only the way they play, it's not only the quality in their skills, but actually the way they go about it, and that's no doubt down to the quality of the coaching they get from people like Dave. So Dave, on behalf of Hockey New Zealand and Otago Hockey, I'd like to acknowledge you with the Services to Hockey for coaching.
Thank you, Anthony. Congratulations, Dave. That's a magnificent achievement. Very well deserved. Very good. Well, that brings our ceremony to its concluding moment, and thank you all again for being here. Wish you all the very best, and if you can remain behind, there's some refreshments over to the side here that we'd like you to partake in and mix and mingle a little bit more. But before we make a move, I'm going to ask these young men to go first so that we don't have a bit of a collision of a sort. So if you guys can start moving and just come through, please.